Hello everyone, my name is Jenny Rafter. I'm the Deputy Head of School for Social Work at Anglia Ruskin in Chelmsford. I'm joined today by one of our students and a student ambassador, Abby. Abby, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name's Abby. I'm a third year social work student at the Chelmsford campus, and it's nice to meet you all.
And Abby, probably, I don't know if it's a distant memory of your interview, but hopefully you'll join me today helping candidates to think about some helpful tips and hints about how to prepare for their interview. Unfortunately, I know Abby very well. She had the misfortune of me teaching her last trimester, but also as the admissions lead, I was part of her being accepted onto the course and her accepting then us as her first choice. So welcome. The first thing to say is well done and congratulations for getting to the interview stage. As I say, hopefully today this video will give you some information about the interview process and how to successfully proceed through your interview. So one of the first questions you may be wondering is, why do we interview? So social work, it's a professional requirement from our regulating body, Social Work England. All social work candidates across the country have to be interviewed, but it's also our opportunity to get to know you. As I say, we often remember people from the point of admissions, and we watch then your transformation and how you grow across the course. It helps us at that beginning part of your journey to understand your motivations of why you want to become a social worker. And it's quite common, lots of people kind of come onto the course with their own adversities or life experience that has kind of driven them towards wanting to undertake this as a career path. It gives us a kind of taster of your values as well and your personal qualities, like I say, that do often resonate across the course. And it's also your opportunity to find out a little bit more about us as an academic team and why you should pick us as your first choice at ARU. Abby, out of interest, do you remember your interview?
I do. I remember it well. I remember it very well because Jenny, you were the person at the front talking to us about what we could expect from ARU and how it was really important to think about what was important to us in our social work careers.
And remind me, Abby, what has motivated you to become a social worker?
Oh, well, so I started off my journey into social work as an advocate. I have a daughter with autism, and I really found that I was advocating for her a lot to get services and support. And I really thought, what happens for people that haven't got someone there advocating for them? And it was through that journey in my career that I realised that, I can really make a difference in social work. So that was kind of my early inspiration, if you like.
Yeah, and you're already doing that. You've been quite a hit in your placements, haven't you, Abby? So I think, and this is your last trimester, and then you'll be graduating. So, like I say, it blinks and it all kind of passes you by, doesn't it? So what are we looking for? Obviously, when we design our interview process and the different kind of stages across earning your place, we're looking to see certain qualities and the elements, the components are specifically designed to draw out your maybe your commitment to social justice. Are you committed to working with the kind of most marginalised, disadvantaged and oppressed groups in society? These are often groups that are quite stigmatised. And as a social worker, you would be driven to empower people and work in an anti-discriminatory, anti-oppressive way, and to work in partnership with them. So sometimes at that early stage, you would hear candidates say, I want to make a difference, I want to empower people. The ones that really stand out understand that actually it's down to people to empower themselves, and often you're part of that in partnership with them. So as I say, the elements have been specifically designed to draw out these qualities in you. So if some of these might be a little bit unfamiliar to you, I would suggest that you have a little read around what is social justice. How does that set us apart from maybe nursing? Because a lot of people kind of come in grappling whether they want to be a nurse or a social worker. So, why are social workers committed to social justice? And maybe to research as well what type of social groups that social workers can work with. So when I say the most marginalised or disadvantaged, that might be the homeless, people with substance misuse, any really othered type of community that is often, as I say, highly stigmatised, and they tend to be overrepresented then in the more kind of punitive aspects of social care. Abby, out of interest, have you got a particular service user group that you're interested in working with?
Actually, I have, and I'm sure you probably remember some of my essays. I'm particularly interested in working with people that experience hoarding. So these are people that are quite often self-neglecting. Generally, I prefer working with adults. I find that being able to work in partnership with the person really supports me to be the best social worker in in incoming that I can be. And I feel that quite often people that experience hoarding are overlooked. So for me, yeah, that's one of my groups, if you like.
And you weren't, your first placement wasn't with adults. It was quite unexpected. And what did you make of that?
Yeah, so my first placement was actually in a school. It was something that I hadn't expected, so I was quite nervous going into it. Definitely for me, children's social work was kind of something that I was a bit scared of because for me, I was used to working with adults, but it was such a fantastic placement. Quite often people say, "Oh, social work in a school, that's not real social work," but honestly, it's the most pure form of social work you can get, I feel, because we built relationships with the children and the families that were around those children. We were really able to get an understanding of the issues that affect their lives. And, we got involved with all of those statutory processes as well around child in need and child protection. So, for me, the social work in schools is a really good learning experience for students.
Yeah, and I guess that's why, you're meant to have contrasting learning experiences, that they're meant to kind of broaden your horizons and be a bit of a game changer, a good placement that maybe you weren't anticipating. So thank you, Abby. So if you're offered an interview, these are the kind of type of qualities and skills that we're looking for. I would say, firstly, fundamentally, you have to like people. You have to be curious and interested in people. If you're not, this isn't the career for you. So being naturally kind of inquisitive and interested, I think people will see that in you as well. You have to have a respect for others. You have to have a kind of core value base and work with integrity. You have to be non-judgmental. We all do judge, but you have to be very self-aware of your kind of unconscious bias. You have to be very sensitive to the feelings of others and also be able to pick up on those, be quite intuitive and instinctive. You've got to be able to identify your own limitations. Social workers do not work in isolation. They work alongside other professionals, and they're always supervised and have kind of more senior colleagues around them. You have to be able to be empathetic and kind of walk in the shoes and think about what the perspective that people are coming from. Most people are inherently good. So what has brought them to their life, where a social worker has become involved, you have to kind of be able to empathise with that. You have to be very adaptable and flexible and be able to think on your feet. You've got to have this willingness to learn, to be a lifelong learner. You never know everything, and a kind of willingness to succeed and to promote change. And you have to like working with other people and within a team. Abby, do you think you possess these key skills and qualities?
I hope so, but equally, I think there is that opportunity for reflection. And when you first start out in the degree course, you'll think, reflection, what's that? How do I do that? But I think we always need to look back on ourselves. I was actually saying before I started this meeting today, I look back to where I was when I
Mm.
applied for the course and I was doing my interview, and I've changed so much. And often people would say at the beginning of the degree course, this is a journey that you're going to go on. And I thought, no, it's not. I'm just going to do a course and I'm going to, get a job. But for me, it really has been a learning curve and growth. So you need those core values and those core skills, but really you need to be open to growth and really willing, I think, really willing to learn. It's a really exciting and engaging course if you're ready to put your all into it.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think it does harness that kind of reflective, holding up a mirror to yourself, because I think you've got to understand yourself before you can understand others, and that doesn't stop. Actually, that will carry on, Abby, across your career. So I've explained why we interview. I've explained what we're looking for, how we interview. So if you are invited to an interview, you will be assessed against three core elements: a written component, a group discussion, and then an individual interview. They're all equally weighted, so they're all scored out of 20. You have to get half marks. You have to pass all 3 elements to succeed and be offered a place. The written, now we send you a link of a program that we want you to watch before your interview day. Then you will have a little break, and then you'll come back and you'll be put into groups, and we will observe you having a group discussion on the same program. So again, you can see why it's so important that you have to have watched that, and I would say watched it more than once and made notes on that program as well. And the last part of the day, the third element, is your individual interview. That's where you'll be called into a panel and you will answer 5 questions all about you, telling us about your experience, any previous study that you've undertaken. Again, what's driven you to become a social worker. So nothing particularly difficult or onerous, but more kind of come into that process really thinking about that program and about what has brought you to this point that you're applying to a social work course. Across the day, you'll be assessed by different individuals. It might be an academic, somebody like me, who's going to be a lecturer on your course. It also might be SUKI, a service user and carer involvement. These are people that have got lived experience of having a social worker in their life. So they might have had a social worker as a child or as an adult or as a carer. And you'll also have a practitioner from a local authority like Essex County Council or Southend or Thurrock. Abby, do you remember who interviewed you at the time?
Yeah, I do. I had Penny, a member of SUKI, and a member of Essex County Council for my main interview. Yeah, I do. And I remember it feeling formal but informal. There was the opportunity to have discussion and to really talk about the questions and the points that I was making. So it's not as scary as you feel like it might be, but I think the key to that is being prepared and thinking about what you might be asked and how you might like to start answering those questions.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been the admissions lead, I think, since 2018. So obviously I've been involved in assessing multiple candidates. I think one of the main things that comes up at the end is that when you or they leave the kind of assessment day, we think they don't really know what social workers do. They haven't really researched the role or the skills and values that social workers inherit. So I would say one of my top tips before your interview is make sure you read around what social workers do. Your starting point is you should be looking at Social Work England, our regulating body. They tell you the professional standards that you are expected to have at the point of entry and by the time you graduate. Also, there is the British Association of Social Work. These have all got brilliant websites and kind of publications and links. Stay up to date, kind of be in keeping with what's going on in the world. Cost of living, for example, is something that's very topical and very important for social workers. The war in Ukraine, Brexit, all of these things, although they're kind of social political, they do impact on practice and communities. I would also encourage you to research ARU. Why are you picking us? So have a look at our website, look at the courses, look at the modules we teach. We're always quite impressed if kind of candidates come in and they've done their homework on us as well. So they say, oh, I see you teach this module and I'd be really interested in that because it sparks my interest from my Access course. Understanding placements and also understanding the interview process. So again, we do remember people we've interviewed, but we also remember people that come along on to open days, on a Saturday, and they sit more on a kind of one-to-one and ask us their questions about the course or about the university or about us as an academic team. So be prepared. As I said, it's often something we're a little bit disappointed when people leave and we think they don't really get what social workers actually do. So again, once you have made the application, you have the option of picking a date, and then we will be sending you joining instructions, such as a Teams link. All of our interviews now are on Microsoft Teams, so make sure you've downloaded that to your laptop. Make sure it's updated if you've got an old version of it, or if it's on your phone. Think about the background. We've blurred our background today, or you've got blank background. Think about this is our first impression of you. Make sure you're free from any kind of noise and disturbances. I know that's really hard to predict. Sometimes the doorbell goes or the phone rings or We have had small children run into the room and sit on their mum's laps, but try where possible to make sure that you've got that quiet space for you to really kind of showcase yourself. You'll be asked to show some ID, so make sure you've got that to hand as well. Again, very common, people have to dash out of their room and kind of go and find their passport, so make sure you've got everything to hand. Test that your cameras work and your microphone on your computer. We're into our second interview this year, and you'd be surprised the amount of people that join and they have real technical issues, and it's not an issue for us really, but it's quite stressful for them. It can kind of unsettle them quite a lot. I would say if you can, use your laptop over your mobile phone. I know sometimes people wouldn't have that luxury, but that would be my advice. Make sure you've got a good connection. Again, only last week, one of the candidates kept dropping out of Teams, and eventually we had to say that they were going to be quite disadvantaged and turn them away and suggest they come back when they have better connection. And as I said, a nice quiet room where possible. So Abby, do you remember how you felt on the day of your interview? I presume your interview wasn't online. It must have been face-to-face, was it?
It was. I think I was one of the last face-to-face interviews before the pandemic hit, so I do remember it well. I remember feeling nervous, but I also remember feeling quite excited because as a person that really, it was a bucket list thing almost to really go and get my degree.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was stepping into this world of university, I was really quite excited. I think my top tips as being a prospective student would be, like you've said, to really research and find out about the university that you're applying to. I'm going to also signpost you to, I've got some blogs on the ARU website that talk about my experiences at university, so it might help you in preparing for the experience. I think find out about all of the extra things on offer at ARU. There's study skills and the library and things like that, and if you know about that when you're going into your interview, you'll feel a lot more settled about the organisation that you're applying to. And I think that you need to be yourself. The lecturers, Jenny, needs to know who you are and where you're coming from, because at the end of the day, part of social work is about using yourself as a tool. So try where you can to be as organised as possible, because that makes you feel more relaxed and ready to do the interview. But it's exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking, but you have to enjoy it because you will look back on it and remember it with fondness as well.
Yeah, I would agree, Abby. I think when when candidates leave the virtual room and we say, well, they've really done their homework, they know this or that about us, and it makes us think that they really want it as well. So I think that's sound advice. So I would say kind of do's and don'ts on the actual day that you arrive for your interview. Please do try to be yourself, as Abby says. I know you're nervous. I know it can be quite inhibiting on camera. But you'd be surprised the amount of people that get right to the end. That's the first time they smile, and it's only when they kind of leave the virtual room that we say, oh, I saw a little chink of their personality there. Think about your body language. We all have our kind of mannerisms, don't we? I think I'm guilty of always doing this, but kind of be quite conscious of that. It's not for everybody, but I would suggest recording yourself and watching it back to see, is there something, do you gesticulate too much? But also, if you do use your hands like me, then don't try to suppress that too much, because that can be quite inhibiting as well. Listen, make sure you're very clear about what we're asking you. If you don't know, ask us to repeat it. Look smart. There's that viral video, wasn't there, that went around where the woman was all pristine on the top and around her was Lego, and I think she had her pajama bottoms on. I wouldn't advise that at an interview. Try to look smart. And as I say, please do ask questions. We like questions. So it tells us that you're kind of hungry and interested. As I say, don't wear your pajamas, because it's quite back to back, as I said, written, group, individual. If you're late, you would be sent away because you would have missed kind of key information. It would only set you back. Although I would, like Abby and I are both saying, I would say be prepared. I would also advise you against being over prepared, because sometimes that can come across as quite robotic. So we definitely have had experiences where people have left their interview and we think, were they reading from like post-it notes, or did they have notes in front of them? And although, yeah, great, that shows that they are prepared. It's it's also not giving us a kind of sense of what they actually think. It can come across as a little bit contrived and rehearsed. So preparation, but not too much as well. After your interview, we will turn around your results within 3 working days. We'll be marking your written, we'll be conferring in the panels. We return the scores back to admissions, and they will notify you within 3 working days if you've been successful. And then you'll be notified via UCAS of the results of your interview. If you're unsuccessful, it does sometimes happen that you didn't succeed at the first attempt. Don't be too disheartened. As I say, you have to pass all 3 elements. So it might be that you kind of fell short on just one of them, and we'll give you feedback about why or how you may have kind of slipped up on one of those elements. And we're more than happy to accept applications for the next academic year. And in some instances, we actually encourage it. We might say, you're not quite there, go away and perhaps get some experience working with people, or go away and gain your confidence around academic writing. Or you may be offered an alternative as well. So don't be too despondent if you weren't successful at the first attempt. If you are successful and you were offered a place, you need to accept your offer via UCAS Track. If you're thinking about accommodation, that is often quite sought after, so that needs to be a priority, that you would seek a student accommodation with ARU. And then following that, you would have to provide your qualifications, your certificates, your DBS and your occupational health information, and you need to notify admissions of any changes to your circumstances. And finally, I would say that after that, once you have your conditional offer, you will be invited to our applicant days. I would really, again, encourage you to come along to those. They're kind of like little mini taster lectures, but have a look around as well. And these may be people that you'll be studying with for the next 2 or 3 years. And in Abby's case, particularly, that I'm very confident these are going to be kind of friends for life within her cohort. Abby, any last words of wisdom?
Just enjoy it. It's the start of a really brilliant journey that you're going to go on. So just, read up, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. But most of all, just be yourself and enjoy it. And good luck.
Thank you, Abby. Yeah, all that remains is to say good luck and goodbye. And we may see you very soon on Teams.